Good morning and welcome to First Baptist Jonesboro. Thank you so much for joining us today. Even though things look a little different, we are so grateful that you've chosen to join us from your living room, from your kitchen, wherever you're at. Hopefully you've got a cup of coffee and you're enjoying this day. And we're excited to at least still be participating together with you. And if you're tuned in and it's your first time, or maybe you visited in person and it's your first time joining us online like this, thank you for tuning in. There's a couple of different ways that you can get connected. We have QR codes that you can scan. We also have our website that you can visit, but you can get connected by texting us. And you can connect with one of our pastors who would love to get more information about you, and that would allow us to find out more about you and then also let you know more about what's going on around here in Jonesboro. There's several different ways that you can get plugged in, and some of the things that we have coming up here very soon, as in next week, is our one service where we gather as a church family to talk about things that are going on, some exciting things that are coming up, and that takes place next Sunday night at 5 p.m. Right after that, around 6 p.m., we're gonna have a chili cook-off. So if you have a family recipe or something that you've just gotten really creative with, we are excited about this chili cook-off, and you want to get signed up for that and participate because there will be prizes involved. So I encourage you to participate in the chili cook-off that follows our one service next week. Now, we have a lot of things that we have the privilege of being a part of as a church family, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that you faithfully give to us every single week, and we appreciate that. And when you give your tithes and offerings here at First Baptist Jonesboro, that goes towards partnerships like we have with the North American Mission Board that's actually headquartered right here in Alpharetta, Georgia. They go across the country and they plant churches everywhere. You can see on the screen the different places that are where we have active church plants. And so we're so thankful for the fact that you join us in partnership with the North American Mission Board. And that's just one of the many ways that those funds go towards furthering the gospel here in Georgia and across the nation. So again, we say thank you for that. If you would like to give, you can still go online. You can see below, you can go online and give. You can text to give. You can go to the website, and we greatly appreciate that. So would you join me now, wherever you're at and whatever setting that you're in, gather your family or your friends if you're hanging out together, and let's worship together.
Against your name, and your name. And the cross still stands, the blood still flows, the work is finished, and hell still knows that the grave is still empty, and the stone is still rolled, and you're still high and lifted up, you're still seated on the throne, the blood still flows.
No matter the storms that come.
this with us. I will sing praise. I will lift my voice. I will sing praise. I've made my choice. Even in the valley, I will choose to praise. In all I do, I will sing praise to you. Even if no matter the storms that come my way, no matter the trials I may face, Lord, you promised that you would see me through. So I will trust in you, no matter the storms that come my way, no matter the trials, no matter, even if you promised that you would see me through. So I will trust in you, no matter the storms that come my way, no matter the trials I may face. Lord, you promised that you would see me through. So I will trust in you. Oh, help us, Lord. So I will trust in you. There is no other God but you. So I will trust in
We are in a sermon series called Renew Me. Now, we're looking at how a gracious God deals with our great sin. David's the main character, all right? King David was an amazing man of God who fell hard, and the consequence of his sin was devastating to him and to those who were around him. Okay, today's different than our normal Sunday. Today, we're dealing with an interruption. We've got a major winter storm that has hit, and so for the sake of safety and caring for our people, we're not able to gather together here on the church campus for worship. So, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a detour. Now, a detour is a roadblock that makes you get off the main road, take a side road, so you can eventually get back to the main road. But in the process of taking a detour, we see things we hadn't planned to see on the road map. We're going to a place that we hadn't planned on going, and so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get back to the main road. We're going to get back to the main sermon series next Sunday, but today I want to take a slight detour, take advantage of our circumstance today, and see this very same story from a different angle. something that I hadn't planned to talk about, but I think is actually fascinating. So we're gonna look at the story of David, the very same story from a different angle. I want to see his sin from the perspective of Uriah the Hittite. Now, I love a deep dive on significant people in the Bible, especially when they're not very well known. And I think there's a lot to learn from Uriah that we're going to look at today. So, today, our sermon title is shifting a bit. It's going to be called Integrity and Tragedy, the story of a good man. And it's based on the story told in 2 Samuel chapter 11. It's a story of David's great sin, describes his adultery, his murder, his deceit. In fact, the entire chapter is written to talk about David's many sins, his extensive cover-up that led him spiraling out of control into deeper and more egregious sins. The whole chapter is talking about David's great sin and how it just began spiraling out of control, destroying people along the way. And yet, do you know how many times in this one chapter the name Uriah comes up? Again, the entire chapter is about David's sin, all the things he did, but in this one chapter, do you know how many times the name Uriah is written in 2 Samuel chapter 11? 19 times. 19 times in one chapter, Uriah's name is mentioned. The story is focused on David, but it seems like Uriah is everywhere you turn. So who is Uriah? Well, he's a fascinating man. He was a man of integrity. I mean, whenever you see his name, it's integrity, it's honor, it's a good man. And so I want to start at the beginning and give a little context so you understand who this man is and how he fits into the story. 2 Samuel chapter 11 starts in a way that you know something is up. You know something is off. Something's not right. Because the very first verse of chapter 11, it says this: "It happened in the spring of the year, at the time when kings go to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the people of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem." Now, here's what I want you to see. It says here that when kings go out to battle, in the springtime of the year when the battles are raging, kings normally go out to battle with the men. But he didn't go. David sent Joab, he sent his servants, he sent the armies of Israel to go and fight the battle, but David remained in Jerusalem. Now that's significant. David is not acting like a king. David is not where he is supposed to be. David is not doing what he would normally do. He was a warrior. Oh, he started out as a shepherd boy, but he was a man of great courage. He was a man who fought many battles. Of course, you remember the story of the entire Israelite army is terrified of the Philistines, and especially Goliath. Goliath, this giant of a man, this warrior that nobody wanted to face. David, as a boy, he would have the courage to stand there and say, "What are you guys afraid of? We serve the Lord our God." His trust in God was immense. His courage was incredible. He went out into that battle. He slayed Goliath. He's not afraid of the enemy. In fact, as he would become king, he would lead many men into many battles, and he would have so many victories. He was the man. And in this time in history, kings always went to war with the men. I mean, they would go and inspire. They would lead the battle. They looked for kings who could inspire men in battle. In other words, they didn't sit in the situation room back home and push a button like they do today. They inspired men on the battlefield. And when kings would normally go to battle, David remained in Jerusalem. The very first verse of this chapter, we have the indication something is not right. And this isn't how it should be. And so as the story continues, while at home, David when he should have been with the men in battle, he looks from the roof of his house to his neighbor's house, and he sees a beautiful woman bathing, and he wants her. And so here we come to the first mention of Uriah's name in this story. It's in verse 3. It says, "So David sent and inquired about the woman, and someone said, 'Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah?'" In other words, David knew this woman was another man's wife. She was married. She was in a relationship with another man. This was Uriah's wife. He knows that. But before she ever comes over, before he asked to have her come to his palace, and even worse, he knew her husband. He knew who Uriah was. And he knowingly went after his friend's wife. I mean, he's starting to spiral out of control. But the question again for today is, who is Uriah? Okay, let me give you a little bit of a background here. It says, first of all, that he was Uriah the Hittite. Okay, so what does that mean? In fact, many times when his name is there, it's not just Uriah, it's Uriah the Hittite. Well, the Hittites are an interesting people. In fact, when you go back and study the Hittites, the archaeologists and historians, they knew nothing of the Hittites for such a long time. There's no trace of their existence. Somehow, they had just been put together with the other cultures. They lost their identity. There was nothing of the Hittites. And so the critics of the Bible, those who do not believe in Christianity, they used the Hittites as proof that the Bible was just a book of mythology, a book of stories, that the Bible could not be trusted. The Bible talks about the Hittite civilization, and there's no record, there's no archaeology, there's no evidence of the Hittites. And so the critics reason that since there's no archaeological evidence of a Hittite civilization, they must not have existed. And the Bible must be wrong. But archaeology, guess what, discovered the Hittites. Starting back in 1876, and many times since, they have proved without a question of a doubt of the Hittite civilization as a very powerful people in the 15th, 16th century BC. And though maybe they're obscure in the scope of world history, the Hittite nation played a very important role in the Israelite history, in the Old Testament especially. And the discovery of their existence has now helped verify and confirm the accuracy of the Bible. And so again, the Bible is proven to be true because of these Hittites, of which Uriah was one. See, in the Bible, the Hittites were mentioned more than 50 times. They're descendant from Heth, who's the son of Canaan, and the great-grandson of Noah, as of Noah's Ark. They ruled the area around Syria and eastern Turkey. They battled with Egypt and Babylon for territory. In fact, in Joshua 1:4, the territory that they held was identified as a large part of the promised land that the Jewish nation was going in to take. All that to say, Uriah was not an Israelite. He was Uriah the Hittite. But the second thing I want you to know about who Uriah is his name in Hebrew means Yahweh is my light, which means that he was a convert to the Israelite faith. In other words, he was faithful to the Israelite God even though he was a foreigner to the land. He'd converted to the faith in the one true God. A third thing I'd say about Uriah is that he was an elite soldier in King David's army. He is known as one of David's mighty men, sometimes called the 30. They were renowned for their skill and their courage in battle. In fact, there are some who talk about these as literally giants. Now, I don't think Uriah was a giant as far as stature, but there's no doubt that he was an imposing figure. He was an intimidating man in battle. And there's no doubt that he was well known by the king. He was one of David's mighty men. And when David would go into battle, like kings would normally do, he'd have the best of the best by his side. They were like the bodyguards. If you're going to get to the king, you got to get through David's mighty men. They were around him all the time. And he would have definitely known Uriah, one of the mighty men who went with him into battle against the enemy. But the thing I want to focus on most is that Uriah was a man of integrity. In the midst of David's treachery, he shows integrity. David's adultery with Bathsheba got her pregnant. And as the story goes, to cover up the sin of Bathsheba getting pregnant, he decides to call Uriah back home from battle. And his idea is, if I can just get Uriah to come home for at least one night, he can sleep with his wife, and when the baby finally arrives, he would think this child was his. And so here's David's treachery, his deceit, his plan to cover up his sin. David tells him, man, Uriah, listen, you've been fighting well. You're an amazing man. I'm sure he buttered him up. He says, go home, eat well, drink well, lay with your wife. You deserve it. But Uriah doesn't go home. He's back from battle. He's back in Jerusalem. He's there near his home. And David's telling him to go, but he says, I can't do it. He doesn't go home. Instead, he chooses to sleep in the doorway of the king's house with the servants of David. And when David finds out that he didn't go home, he's like, David, why didn't you go home? You got a beautiful wife. Why didn't you go home to your wife on this cold night in Jerusalem? And I want you to see what he says. It says, and Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah are dwelling in tents. Now let me just pause for a moment. When he says the ark represented the presence of God. He said, God has gone before us. The ark of the covenant is in the battlefield. And Israel is in the battlefield. Judah is in the battlefield. My Lord Joab, the general, the guy who's leading the charge, that I should be beside him fighting in the battle. The servants of my Lord, these mighty men, the 30, the warriors, they're out encamped in the open fields. And so he's saying, God, the Ark of the Covenant is in a field. Israel is out there fighting battles. The tribe of Judah is out there. They're fighting. Joab, my friend, the general, the guy I fought with so many times, he's out there. The servants of the Lord, these mighty men, they're out in the fields, the open fields. How can I go to my house, eat, drink, and lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this. It's fascinating. He's showing such integrity. He shows honor by swearing on David's life. Did you see this? He said, as you live and as your soul lives, I'm not going to do this. David, these are your people. David, this is your God. This is your battle. I swear on your name. How ironic is that? David, I honor you enough. I'm not going to do this. I may want to eat a good meal. I want a good night's sleep in a nice bed. I could use a drink right now. Things are pretty tough. And don't you know I love to spend time with my wife? I'm not going to do it. He's a man of integrity. He's a man of honor. And so David still, he's holding on to his plan. He convinces Uriah, would you just stay one more day? Just one more day before you go back. And so Uriah stays. It is the king, after all, who's asking him to stay. So they eat together and they drink together, and David gets him drunk. And in David's mind, he's thinking, okay, when he gets inebriated, he gets a little tipsy, his natural passions are going to take over, and he'll go back to his wife. But he doesn't. Uriah, even in his drunkenness, has more honor than the king. He doesn't do it. He again sleeps in the doorway of the house of the king along with the other servants. So finally, David realizes that this guy's got too much integrity. Think of all the things, this guy's got too much honor. So he says, okay, go back to the battle, but take this letter with you. And the letter he writes to Joab, the general of the army. He says, when Uriah's there, go out into battle, put Uriah at the front of the battle lines, go to the most dangerous place, and when he's vulnerable and the battle's raging, withdraw support and let him die. Basically, Uriah, the man of integrity, the man of honor, is carrying his death sentence. But he faithfully does it. He doesn't open it, doesn't look at what's inside. He just gives it to the general like the king told him. And that's exactly what happens. He's left to die, and Uriah dies in battle for his king. Uriah is this incredible man of honor. But in this story, the sad thing is that Uriah is a man betrayed. He's betrayed. This is the place where you want to ask yourself, why do bad things happen to good people? He's good people. He's integrity, he's honor, he's faithful, he's loyal. He's got all the characteristics of a great man of God. And he's betrayed. Why do bad things happen to good people? Uriah is an honorable and good man. He's doing his duty in battle when David chose to stay home from the battle. He was thinking of others, denying his own needs, when David stayed home thinking of himself and his own needs. Uriah is this respected leader, an elite warrior, and yet he chose, instead of going home to his wife that he could have done and maybe should have done, he chose to stay with the servants, the lowest in the household. I mean, he's a great leader. He's a mighty man of God. He's one of David's mighty men. He was an incredible man. His house was apparently next to the king's house. He was in a good neighborhood. And yet he didn't let it go to his head. He said, I'll hang out with the servants. I'll sleep with those guys. He had integrity when nobody was watching. And he was faithful even to his very last breath. And here's the thing, it was his friend. It was the king whom he served that took his last breath and ended his life. I mean, what did Uriah do wrong? Nothing. Here's the sad reality. Sometimes life doesn't seem fair. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Again, think about Uriah. He had a good life. Apparently, he had a very beautiful wife. He served in a high-ranking leadership role in the army. He was respected as a man of his word. He was full of integrity, but he was mistreated and he was done wrong. And yet, now here's the thing that rubs me wrong. We talk about David as a great man of God after the heart of God. In fact, in the New Testament, look at this. In Acts chapter 13, talking about when God removed Saul, he raised up for them David as king, to whom also he gave testimony, and he said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, who will do all my will. And so we today refer to David as a man after God's own heart. That's one of his nicknames. David, the man after God's own heart. And yet we know this story. Now, I don't want to discount the many great things that David did. And David is a great man of God, just like the scripture says. He slayed Goliath. He led the people. He was chosen by God. He was anointed by God. He was placed as king over the people of God. He was a friend of God. I mean, like, he was amazing God. I don't want to discount any of that, but in this moment, it doesn't seem fair. See, everybody talks about David. Nobody's talking about Uriah. I like Uriah. And though we don't always understand why bad things happen to good people, we know that God sees all. And so the last thing I want you to see is this. Uriah is a man honored by God. You say, but what do you mean honored by God? He just got killed in battle. He just got betrayed by the king that God put in place. What do you mean he's honored by God? Well, listen, there's several things I would point to. Understanding that God is just, God is righteous, that God will reward each one according to how they've lived their life. And his legacy of integrity is remembered in the Bible. The Bible tells the story. Again, we got this chapter of horrible sins of David, and yet Uriah's name is scattered all the way through that chapter as a man of integrity, a man of honor. 19 times it mentions his name. While we're talking about David's sin, we also get a picture in the very same verse of an incredible man of God with integrity and honor and faithfulness and loyalty and all the good characteristics we'd want to see in a man. But not just here. I love this. Look at a verse in 1 Kings 15:5. It says, David did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and had not turned aside from anything that he had commanded him all the days of his life, except the matter of Uriah the Hittite. I mean, here we go. David was an amazing man of God. I mean, he led the people of Israel as king. He wrote worship songs that we are singing today. He's written so much of Scripture, and I mean, amazing man. Except the Bible doesn't let him get away with this. God doesn't let him get away with this, except in the matter of Uriah, who? The Hittite. I love the fact that not only in the story told in 2 Samuel, but in 1 Kings, it's saying, David's a great guy, but we're not forgetting about what he did to that good man named Uriah. What a statement. David was a great man of God who did the eyes and the right of God, except with how he treated Uriah. He did Uriah dirty. God was not pleased with how he treated a great man like Uriah. But I want you to watch this. There's another place where Uriah shows up. And to me, it's even more amazing. Did you know that this great man of integrity, Uriah, is mentioned in the genealogy of Jesus? Take a look at this. In the great genealogy of Jesus in Matthew chapter 1, the first chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, it begins to describe the genealogy of how he came to Jesus' birth. Right in the middle of that, take a look, verse 6. David, the king who begot Solomon by her who had been the wife of who? Uriah. I think that's amazing. I mean, here we're talking about the birth of Jesus and the genealogy down through the ages, and we've got Uriah in the list. Now, understand something. The Bible didn't have to mention Uriah. Uriah was not in the bloodline of Jesus. He was a Hittite. He wasn't an Israelite. He was the former husband of Bathsheba. He was the former husband of Bathsheba, whom David slayed, who gave birth to Solomon, the king, by King David. They didn't have to mention Uriah. But Bathsheba was impregnated by King David. Uriah's off to the side, but we don't need to talk about him. But such was his character. Such was he, an honored man of God, as one of David's mighty men, full of integrity and honor and everything else. I mean, such was his character. The Bible honored him by putting his name in the recording of Jesus, the Son of God's birth. I don't know about you, I love that. That's amazing. And it reminds me that God sees all, God knows all, and God will reward us according to how we have walked with him. Oh, God sees it. He sees everything. And to be honest, we don't know a whole lot more about Uriah than what this story tells us. But I believe that the Lord welcomed Uriah. That when he died in that battlefield and he rose to see the Lord, I get the sense that God was saying, Uriah, I know what happened. Thank you for your faithfulness, and great is your reward. Listen, when nobody notices, God does. Be faithful. Be a person of integrity. When nobody's watching, when the cameras are not on you and the lights are not on you and nobody knows what's going on, be like Uriah. Be a man of integrity, a man of honor. Do the right thing. But as you think of this story and you think, well, how does that apply to me? I want you to remember something. Sometimes people find themselves in a hard place. It's no fault of their own. Evil has been done to them. And now they are suffering the sin of another person. There are people who are good people, honorable people, people who love God. But somebody else's sin has just now impacted their life. Let me be transparent. My heart breaks for kids who grow up in horrible circumstances. My heart breaks for so many stories that I've heard of innocent people who have been abused. And we wonder why they're struggling. We wonder why they're somehow not very trusting, or they're struggling with some anger from past hurts. I mean, there are so many who are suffering the consequences of another person's sin. This fallen world is not fair. Can I challenge you? Have compassion on people. You have no idea what they've gone through in life. You have no idea what has happened to them. Oh, I understand there's many times people, they make their own mistakes. We're all sinners. We all have blown it in some capacity. But just understand something. We don't know their story. And if you only knew the story of some of the people around your life who are hurting, you'd show more grace. You say, yeah, I hear you. I understand. It doesn't excuse the sin, doesn't excuse the thing, but it just makes you want to have more grace toward people when you understand some of the challenges they've had in life. And sometimes, like Uriah, this great man of God, somebody else's sin ended up in his demise. And there's people all around you, people right here in our church who've had some tough circumstances, grew up in tough homes. Things have been done to them. I can tell you story after story. I don't have time to do it. People once I've heard their story, I think, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I understand. And it makes you want to love on them and show grace to them and walk alongside them. But one last lesson, I think, from the story, and that would be this. There's a lot of honorable people that nobody notices. Notice them. I mean, look around and notice. Honor them. Appreciate them. Thank them. I mean, there are so many people around us doing their duty, being faithful. They love God. They're not the king, so the spotlight is not on them. They're not on stage. They don't have a microphone. They're simply faithfully serving the Lord without any recognition. In our church, there's an army of honorable people, faithful, sacrificial, thinking of others before themselves, not trying to be recognized. They're just happy to love on others just like God has loved them. They faithfully serve the Lord without any recognition. There is an army of servants in this church. And in comparison, a relatively few leaders. And too often the leaders get all the credit. Thank the army. I mean, recognize and honor and thank the army of people that God has here serving Him faithfully week after week. We would not be who we are without the faithful, consistent service of men and women that most people would never know their name. I hope you're challenged by the life of Uriah. I like Uriah. He's one of my heroes. Can I challenge you? Honor God, and God will bless you for all eternity. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Y'all sing it. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. Thank you, Lord. All I have did thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Oh, he's faithful, he's just, he's merciful and gracious, he's life-giving. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. These blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Oh, shout it, church. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Sing, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. You sing it. Great